Ladies and gentlemen, it's teaser talk time.
Would y'all look at that sad-ass corn? But that's a badass tractor.
I feel like no topic is off limits for teaser talk.
I just picture them with an iPad. And, I mean, that's it. Let's get real. We were the cool kids who were too cool for the other kids to realize we were cool.
You goddamn better believe it.
Hand check, you guys.
I may have been conceived to that song, Holly.
Make some noise for your co-hosts, Hey Donna, Hey, and Holly Nicole.
Happy Teaser Talk Tuesday. We hope you are having the raddest day ever. Hey Donna, Hey, and Holly Nicole here for another kick-ass podcast episode.
Today we are going to talk about the evolution of music-related fashion and how it has become what it is today.
So I know this is something Dawn and I have both been involved both have been involved with for years. I remember we were always drawn to like the black leather, the studs, the ripped look, really as far as I can remember. I would say that my very first memory of any kind of rock and roll style would have to be Kiss, and they're just so iconic, and they were top marketers. I mean, I remember playing with Hot Wheels, and they were all decked out with like the different Kiss. Like each car had like a different member on it, and I would probably also say that explains my first crush, which was Sting the Wrestler. I think there's something about guys covering their face with paint that just mesmerized me. I don't know.
You're such a creep.
Donna, I'm super creepy. I don't know. But, whatever. So, Donna, what would you say that was your favorite styles, like looking back through all the different styles of that?
Well, I love it all, but I think I would be most obsessed with what we think of as punk fashion now. Just the rebellion, the overall I don't give a fuck attitude is just super cool. So let's talk a little more about punk fashion, or anti-fashion, as I would say. So punk is what some people would say was the counter movement against the late 60s summer of love style. All the waves, flares, drapes, peace and love. And in its place came super tight jeans, leather jackets, ripped tees, sweat, and anger. So soft lines were replaced with sharp cuts. 15-minute prog rock jams struck down by 2-minute distorted bursts. Punk style borrowed from Teddy Boys, Greasers, the Victorian era, and their own childhood school uniforms. Because while those uniforms were mandatory, making them badass was also a must.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just interesting to see how they, it's almost like the kids rebelling with their parents, right? Like you had like the hippies, the love children, and then I'm assuming, they probably, had some kids with their orgies that they had going on back in the 60s. But, people almost look so rebellious, so that's super cool. I think that's what I love about punk. It's like the music and the style is just rebellious. The whole idea of taking clothing and destroying it for an anti-fashion statement in itself. When I think of punk, I always think of course, like Anarchy in the UK, that movement, which a lot of it was inspired by Malcolm McLaurin's girlfriend, Vivienne Westwood. So, of course, McLaurin was the Sex Pistols manager, and then Vivienne Westwood, I would say, some even view her as the mother of punk style, right? Like she was the fashion designer that had their rocker shop back in the 70s called Sex. Their anti-fashion philosophy definitely defined the punk movement, especially, you can't talk about McLaurin without talking about the Sex Pistols. So I would say I remember that would be the very first band tee I can think I've ever recalled was having a Sex Pistols shirt, and it was like a baseball tee. I can close my eyes and vision it, and my mom was just like kind of appalled at the word, that her daughter was wearing a shirt that had the word sex at all on it. But I would say that was probably my very first memory of me owning a band tee for sure.
Yes, the Sex Pistols with their ripped political clothes and safety pins. We loved our safety pins. And Johnny Rotten, however, gave a much more practical reason for the accessory, claiming that they prevented the arse of your pants from falling out. So whatever its origins, it definitely quickly was adopted and became a big thing. So the design duo Westwood and McLaurin had radically transformed into both a fashion and a political statement with their safety pin fashion, incorporating that into clothes. So their God Save the Queen t-shirts, the Queen passively sported a safety pin through her nose.
Yes, and I think our fascination with safety pins was a little bit past the point of political reason. I remember giving a speech in high school. I was that obsessed over them. Like we had like those bracelets made out of rings of safety pin. I was thinking about this too, you know, when we were talking about safety pins, there was a kid, and I cannot remember his last name for the life of me, but he was in science, Mr. Smith's class with me. His first name was Shane. Do you remember who I was talking about? His cousin was Josh.
Ah, Shane Skeens.
Shane Skeen, yes. So probably none of our listeners know who Shane Skeen is, but he's a super sweet redneck kid. I don't know how else you would describe him. But he had said, Holly, your lips are so nice that you'd make a possum squeal. So, you know, I was just like, kind of like, yeah, whatever, dude. Like, I took my safety pin, like, off of my old bracelet, and poor kid. Like, I remember I just, like, stabbed him, but it went so, like, all the way down to the circle of it.
Oh.
The poor guy, he ended up, I know, it gives me goosebumps thinking about it, but he got in trouble, and I remember, I don't know why that just randomly triggered that memory. And poor kid, he's the one that ended up getting in trouble, and I stabbed him with it, but, yeah. I would say that we definitely had an obsession with safety pins. Do you remember that big-ass, I think it was red, safety pin that you had?
So it was actually pink. And
red tomato tomato.
Whatever. So, again, I think that was probably a statement thing. But in this case, the statement was that we needed a bigger safety pin because it would do more damage the next time we needed to stab someone in class. So, we can't talk about punk without talking about the Mohawk. So as the 1980s landed and civil unrest intensified, punk fashion became even more of a political statement, and that's kind of when street punk was created, and the image of punk that we all remember kind of started. So you think of mohawks, studded chokers, tattoos, Doc Marten boots, and plaid. So kind of everything I love. Punk, right there. Women rock leather skirts with ripped fishnets and even scribbled slogans and band tees on T-shirts with marker pens. I mean, what's more anti-fashion than defacing your clothes? So all of these things I still rock and find extremely cool. It's the anarchist punk in me, I guess.
Yes, leather skirts, fishnets, band tees, that's definitely the way to any girl's hearts, or at least our hearts for sure.
Absolutely. For sure. So I think that the really cool thing about the whole punk scene is how they used their clothing for more than just covering their butts. They used it as a statement. Yes, and to see how that one, like, I don't know if you would say genre, but that one style or whatever you would want to call it, how it's also translating into almost like different sub-styles from there. You have like the, just to name a couple, like the Anarcho Punk, which is like the all-black militaristic clothing, the Celtic Punk, which is like fashion more with Irish and Scottish clothing styles. And, you know, there's even the cow punk, which was like the U.S. Western wear linked with the checkered shirts, right? You got glam punk, which is leather and glitter, a little bit more, you know, glamorous. Yeah. The name glam punk. You got the pop punk, which that might be my favorite, which overlaps with the skater punk. So, you know, it was that kind of like that fusion between those two.
And then you have, of course, can't forget the ska punk. And those are just a few that had emerged from the punk movement that created their own scenes within that.
So when I think pop punk kind of overlapped with the skater punk and ska, I always kind of think Avril Lavigne. And even though I was not really into her music, I
hated
wanted her style. I don't like her either, but I just wanted all of her clothes. I just wanted to kill her and steal everything in her closet. So, I mean, two birds, one stone. Avril Lavigne is gone, and I get her clothing.
Gone. There you go. That's a winner. Did you see, random quick side note, did you see that there's a new conspiracy saying that Avril Lavigne's dead and they have some, engineer person that's, living her life right now?
I have seen that. I have.
It's the weirdest shit ever. Okay, out of all the people in the universe, why the hell would we want Avril Lavigne to be?
Yeah, why would we replace her? We wouldn't.
Okay, I'm not going to.
Anyway, okay, so we're talking about punk, and we're going off on random tangents. So let me just add, SLC Punk is a fabulous movie, and if you have never seen it, you need to go and watch it immediately, or we cannot be friends.
Yes, and I could not find it. I actually had to go on eBay and buy an old copy that somebody had previously owned. It's just not existent. So definitely worth the scavenger hunt online for finding it. You will not be disappointed. And if you don't cry when Heroin Bob dies, you have no soul.
Yeah. Spoiler alert. Heroin Bob does die. And
dub.
And it is definitely one of the saddest moments in movie history.
Let's just take a moment of silence, actually, for Heroin Bob.
Okay, so let's talk about something happier, like Chucks.
Oh, Chucks, how beautiful you are.
Very beautiful. So half the history of Converse is about basketball, which I feel like some of the younger generation of, punk enthusiasts may not even know that. But yes,
No.
Converse started as basketball shoes. And the rest is about something far more complicated, about the ways a plain sneaker is consistently adored by anti-consumer consumers. So Converse owned the court as the NBA's official shoe until more expensive basketball shoes came along from other makers.
Yes, and like you said, people probably don't even remember or know that, but basketball obviously isn't what made Converse what it is today, which is pretty ironic considering now there's a more permanent consumer base of misfits who all own several pairs of Chucks. I would say definitely Converse owes an enormous debt to rebels, greasers, juvenile delinquents, and punk rockers.
Yeah, so let's talk about that. I mean, that's a pretty big demographic, from basketball players to punkers and rock and rollers. So some say that the Ramones were the first to wear Chucks in the punk scene, but rumor has it that Johnny Ramone always wore Reeboks because he had high arches and Chucks didn't give him the arch support he needed. So I guess comfort over cool for Johnny. It was actually the Sex Pistols that made the sneaker popular in the punk rock circles, which began to transform the shoe from sporting wear to something that, as we said, went across the board to a lot of different groups. The Chuck Taylor All-Stars would go on to infiltrate many subcultures over the year, making the sneaker just as popular with musicians as it was with athletes.
Yeah, I always think, too, I would always tie them back to Kurt Cobain, because I remember that, you always see him, even sadly, I think even in his picture whenever he was passed, showing the Converse shoes. There was an iconic moment, though, I think it was 93 MTV Music Awards, where he had rocked a pair of the old worn Chucks. You're on these glitz and glam, award place, and then you have Kurt Cobain wearing these shoes that probably, were not even close to being new, along with, his style with flannel shirts. You have those slightly dirty sneakers that would go on to symbol grudge music, really for the, from that point on, from the Pacific Northwest. And of course, I'm super sad that I missed out on scoring a pair from the Kurt Cobain collection back in 2008 that had like his scribbles from like his journals and even song lyrics. So speaking of all the different styles and stuff coming through, Donna, what was your first color pair of sneakers that you owned?
Okay, so my first pair of Chucks were actually pink. And let me just add, with you talking about how it kind of became a grunge symbol, you were definitely a poser if you had clean Chucks. I mean, I'm not afraid to admit that, I recently bought a new pair of Chucks, and I may or may not have rubbed them in the dirt because clean Chucks are not okay. But, so, my pink Chucks, actually, before I had a chance to grunge them up, I had everyone sign them like they were a fucking yearbook or something, and I think someone ended up drawing a dick on them, and so my mom threw them away. So that was the demise of my first pair of Chucks.
I love your mom.
I know.
Your mom's amazing.
I guess
shout out to Donna's mom.
Yes. I guess she just thought it was not appropriate for me to walk around high school with a penis on my shoe. So, I mean, I guess. Thanks, Mom. So what about you, Holly? What color were your first pair of Chucks?
Oh, they were definitely black, of course.
Of course, Holly. You and black.
Well, you know my love for the color black. But yeah, that's awesome. Well, I hope you guys have enjoyed listening to this episode of Teaser Talk. I know it's something we love to talk about, and I'm sure we'll have more episodes coming on of different, in-depth talks of this. But the rock style really is what made me, launch Concert Tees. I wanted to launch something I was passionate about. And, of course, a shop for music lovers by music lovers was something that I definitely see as near and dear to my heart.
Yeah, I mean, it's really cool, like, what Concert Tees has become, just the whole idea behind it, comfortable, affordable, awesome concert wear. I mean, I think it's a really awesome concept. And something we're super excited to announce is the Teaser Talk Top Shop, which is a shop powered by Concert Tees and influenced by Teaser Talk. So make sure to check out both shops, concerttees.com and teasertalktopshop.com, or just go to teasertalk.com and you can look for the shop button. You will not be disappointed.
Yes, I am super excited on the collaboration of that with you, Donna, and for the Teaser Talk Top Shop for sure.
Yeah, so we'd love to hear your favorite punk-inspired styles. You never know, maybe something you like will show up in the Teaser Talk Top Shop, so keep your eye open. Let us know. Give us some feedback on what you like. You can tag us on Instagram. Our username is @TeaserTalk, or on Twitter @talk_2_teaser, and we will post our favorites on Instagram. Make sure you go to teasertalk.com and subscribe to enter our drawing for a $20 gift certificate to the Teaser Talk Top Shop. And until next time, guys, keep rocking.
We hope you've enjoyed this episode of Teaser Talk.
Tune in next time to catch some more shenanigans.
Be sure to follow us on Instagram at @TeaserTalk. Also, follow us on Twitter @talk_2_teaser.
Until next time, keep rockin'.